1 in the morning. The room is dark except for the phone, an inch from your face, and your thumb is still moving. You stopped reading a while ago. The thumb carried on without you. There is work at 7:30. You are not asleep. Another hour gone. Then comes the thought that only visits at this hour, patiently, like a debt collector who knows the address. It wants to know what you are doing with your life. And you have a routine for this visit, because tomorrow you will build the usual defenses. A new app. A plan written at speed, a promise that Monday is the real beginning. By Wednesday, the app sits in a folder and the plan is a screenshot you scroll past. You have done this loop enough times to know its shape, and knowing the shape has never once broken it. If you recognize that room, the rest of this is for you, because you have been told what this is, and the telling was confident. Laziness, they said. Phones. A soft generation, a weak grip on time. Is none of those things. Some of what follows will not be comfortable to hear. But it has a name, a history, and a door out. Look closer at the man in that bed, because he is not an idle man. He is working hard every single day at a job nobody assigned him. He is guarding something, and he has been at it for years. It has cost him his mornings, his work, and the woman asleep beside him, or the one who left. The thing he is guarding is a boy who never agreed to land. The boy who never lands. From the outside it looks simple, a man who will not grow up. The world keeps a shelf of small insults for him. But a century ago, the psychoanalyst Carl Jung kept meeting this exact man in his consulting room. Educated, charming, stalled, and Jung gave the pattern a better name, Puer Aeternus. The eternal boy. You may know the popular version, the Peter Pan syndrome, and let us be clear from the start. This is not a diagnosis, and you should be wary of anyone who hands it to you as one. It is a description of a strategy. The eternal boy is not stupid, and he is not broken. Somewhere below the level of choice, he has declined to land. Because landing means choosing one runway. One trade, one town, one person, one version of himself, and the moment he chooses, all the other versions die. So he circles. From up there, every life is still available. He can still be the founder, because there is an idea in his notes. He can still be the artist, because the equipment waits in the cupboard, barely used. He can still be the man who moves abroad, the late starter everyone underestimated, the quiet surprise of his generation. Circling feels rich with futures. But watch what it does to the present tense. The course sits at lesson 3. The domain name renews every year and points at nothing. Each path receives an hour of fantasy, and none receives a decade of work, and paths only ever pay in decades. Meanwhile, the sky asks nothing of him, which is the whole attraction. No gravity up there, no witnesses, no results. Possibility feels like freedom, and he will tell you it is freedom with a small speech he has given before. The speech quotes the friend who settled down young and seems tired now, and it ends on the word trapped. But stand close and it looks less like flying. It looks like a waiting room with clouds. The provisional life. Now walk through his flat, wherever he happens to be living this year. There are boxes he never fully unpacked, because this place is temporary. There is a job he describes with a small laugh. He is only doing it while the real thing takes shape, so it stays temporary too. The relationship simmers at seeing where it goes. Even his mess is provisional, because he is not untidy. You understand he simply has not sorted things yet. And notice the good objects. The proper boots, never worn, saved for a life that has not started. The beautiful notebook, too good to spoil with his actual handwriting. Everything of quality is being kept for later for the man he is about to become. The man he currently is gets the scrap paper. The analyst who studied the eternal boy had a phrase for this arrangement. The provisional life. Provisional means standing in for something, and that is exactly how he lives, as a stand-in for himself. He keeps the seat warm for someone who is always about to arrive. Real life begins after the course, after the move, after this rough patch. So nothing counts yet, and because nothing counts, nothing accumulates. A temporary life earns no interest. The flat never turns into a home, the job never turns into a craft, the simmer never turns into a family. And there is a stranger detail. He is a devoted spectator of lives that are not his. He can tell you the training habits of athletes and the origin stories of founders. He knows the whole discography of the men who did the thing he talks about doing. He watches from a good seat, close to the pitch, fluent in the game, invested in every result except his own. If that is not your flat, if your boxes are long unpacked, that is no failing. Stay anyway, because you will recognize someone you love. But if it is yours, hear the cost said plainly. One ordinary Tuesday arrives, and the man keeping the seat warm looks up to find the seat was the whole show. Waiting was the life, nobody told him. The child they praised. Now the uncomfortable part, which is where the boy came from, because nobody chooses a waiting room on purpose. If this pattern is yours, There is a fair chance it began with a compliment. Picture a child who found school easy. He read before the others, or numbers behaved for him, or he could make the adults laugh on cue. And the adults did what adults do. They told him he was bright. They said it over his head at dinner, to his teachers, down the phone to relatives. And the boy did what children do with a sentence that draws that much light. He built his floor out of it. Being the bright one became the ground he stood on, and a floor like that carries a hidden clause. If it comes without effort, then effort becomes the threat. The day he has to try is the day he stops being special, so trying quietly becomes the enemy, and school lets him get away with that for years. Then school ends, and the adult world does not grade on promise. It grades on finished work, delivered on time, into rooms full of people who were also called bright once. And the first time he genuinely tries and genuinely comes up short, something tears, not his ambition, his floor. So the mind does what minds do with a tearing floor, it stops putting weight on it. Somewhere nearby there was usually another child, the one nobody called anything except hardworking. Years later that child is doing fine, because effort was never a threat to who they were. But for our boy, watch the strategy assemble itself. If he never fully tries, he can never fully fail, and the childhood verdict stays untouched in its frame. Procrastination gets described as a time problem, a discipline problem. It is closer to an insurance policy. The essay started the night before, so the grade measures his speed and not his mind. The application abandoned halfway, so the rejection never arrives. The talent kept strictly hypothetical, where weather cannot reach it. All of it, every stalled project and every burned evening, exists to protect one precious sentence. Imagine what I could do if I actually tried. He would rather keep the sentence than test it, and in fairness, after 20 years of leaning on it, so would you. He is not avoiding the work. He is avoiding the verdict. An exam never sat cannot be failed. The wax wings. The Greeks told this story first, and told it in one image. Daedalus, the master craftsman, is trapped on an island with his son, and he builds 2 pairs of wings from feathers and wax. Before the flight, he gives the boy one instruction. Hold the middle air. Fly too low, and the sea will soak the feathers. Fly too high, and the sun will melt the wax. And notice who is being asked to do the boring thing. The middle course, the steady altitude. No glory up there, no drama down here, just a father flapping patiently towards the next island. The boy takes off, and here is the detail everyone forgets, the taking off works. The wings were real, the lift was real, but height went to his head, the way praise goes to a child's. And Icarus climbed towards the sun as if gravity were a rumor started by smaller men. You know the ending. The wax runs, the feathers scatter, and the sea that receives him does not ask what he could have been. The sea has never once asked that. Now bring it home. The eternal boy is a man still flying on the memory of early lift, on how easily it came at 9. And he has confused 2 things that sound alike and are not, altitude and achievement, potential and product, what he could do and what he has done. The praise of adults was thermal air, it cost him nothing and it lifted everything. The day it ran out, he called the descent an injustice. But the middle air his father kept, the unglamorous, effortful, watched over middle, was never a calm down. It was the only air that goes anywhere. A landing looks like death to him, so he climbs. And the ground is where things get made. Trap 1, the anaesthetic. A pattern like this needs daily maintenance, and the maintenance arrives in 3 traps, so watch him get through one ordinary evening. From the outside, the first trap looks like wasting time. Games until 2, the feed until 3, one more episode of a series he stopped enjoying a season ago. But stand behind him and look at his face, because there is no pleasure in it. This is not a man having fun. This is a man taking a painkiller. Every hour alone with his own thoughts is an hour spent in the gap. The gap is the space between the man he was supposed to be and the man the evidence keeps suggesting, and it aches like a tooth. So he reaches for the modern anesthetic, the glowing kind, the kind that asks nothing and always says yes. And listen to the voice that pours it, because there is always a small negotiation first. One more match and I will sleep. One more scroll and I will start. The voice always wins, and it always lies. Now be precise about what each dose provides. The game hands him what the day would not, clear rules, visible progress, a rank that climbs while his life stands still. The feed hands him other people's motion, a river of lives moving briskly past his stillness. And watching movement can feel, for whole minutes, like moving. The next episode hands him someone else's plot, because his own has been stuck at the same chapter for years. Some men do it with a screen and some with a glass. The tool matters far less than the job, and the job is numbness on demand. Here is the tell that separates leisure from sedation. Leisure ends and you feel restored. This ends and you feel robbed. The same 3 posts get scrolled again at 2 in the morning. The phone comes out during a film you chose yourself. A whole season of the game goes by and leaves no memory worth keeping. And anesthesia keeps cruel books, because it only ever borrows relief from tomorrow. He wakes at 7 having already spent the day's peace the night before. The gap is an inch wider, the ache a day older, and the one cure he trusts is another dose. That is not rest, that is sedation. Trap 2, the open back door. The second trap is quieter and it costs more. From the outside it looks like a fear of commitment, and he owns a wardrobe of better outfits for it, keeping his options open, not rushing into anything, seeing where things go. So watch where the phrase turns up. In a relationship that has been seeing where things go for 4 years, with a girlfriend who stopped asking about next summer. Her questions kept meeting a joke with a small door in it. Last spring she asked one direct question, whether he could picture the two of them at 40. He did a funny voice. She laughed, and something in her quietly filed that laugh away. In the job he never fully joins, no course signed up for, no responsibility volunteered. One foot has been angled at the exit for 6 years. In the childhood bedroom he still sleeps in for months at a time, where the rent is free and so is the message. The message says none of this is quite real yet, that the game has not properly started. Every door in his life is propped open, and he calls the draught freedom. Now the mechanism underneath, because this was never really about doors. Commitment is measurement. Sign the lease, say the vow, take the title, and you have created a fixed point. A fixed point is a way to be measured, and therefore a way to be found wanting. The open back door is not keeping his futures alive. It is keeping verdicts out. The unattached man cannot be a disappointing husband. The uncommitted employee cannot be passed over, because he never applied. Even his opinions stay uncommitted, held loosely, easy to drop the moment the room turns. A firm position is one more thing a person can be wrong about, and if a stretch of this is you rather than him, no shame in that either. There were evenings you kept a door open on purpose and slept the better for it. The trap was never one open door. It is never once closing one. Trap 3, Captain Hook. One trap remains, and it is the deepest, because it dresses as insight. From the outside it looks like excuses. The boss is an idiot. The market is rigged. The city is unaffordable. The industry is closed. The good decades were used up by other people. And before anything else, be honest, because none of those complaints is entirely false. Rents really are brutal. Some bosses really are fools. The eternal boy is rarely lying about the world, and that is exactly what makes this trap hold. The question is not whether the complaint is true. The question is what the complaint is for. In the old story, the boy who never grows up needs Captain Hook, and needs him badly. Because as long as there is a pirate on the water, refusing to grow up is not drifting, it is resistance. And a lost boy with an enemy is a hero. The villain gives the stalling a plot. Grown men build the same theater with better props. If the game is rigged, then not playing is a principle. If every employer exploits, then the unsent application is a protest. If success is only luck and connections, then his empty ledger is proof of clean hands. So the fantasy self survives another year with its books unopened, and there are rooms, real ones and online ones, where the stalled gather to compare pirates. The agreement in those rooms is warm, and warmth is not nothing when you are stuck, but notice that nobody in there ever seems to leave. Worn this way, victimhood stops being pain and becomes armor with a story printed on the front. So run the test, and run it kindly on one complaint of your own. Keep its truth. Remove its job. Ask what the complaint excused tonight, specifically this one evening, the single hour it bought. The market may truly be against you. The wind may truly be foul. And the question was still never whether the wind is fair. It is whether you ever left the harbor. Step 1. The wall around the dream. That is the whole machine, every moving part of it. Now the way out in 4 steps, and the first happens entirely inside his head, which is why it must come first. He has to renovate what the word responsibility means, because right now, somewhere in his chest, adulthood is filed under death. The office is where dreams go to die. The mortgage is a cage, the schedule is a leash, the pram in the hallway is the end of the story. He read that last line somewhere once, and it stuck, and filed that way. Of course he runs. You would run too. Nobody strolls willingly into what they have labeled a grave. But hold the label up against the people who actually live the life he fantasizes about. The working musician he envies rehearses at 8 on cold Tuesday mornings. He invoices the venues on Fridays and restrings the same guitar in the same chair. The man with the small company he keeps talking about starting spends every Thursday on payroll. The writer whose name is on a spine turned in pages each Monday for 3 years. Most of them were bad. All of them were due. Every free life he admires runs on more structure than his own, not less. The dream did not survive despite the scaffolding. It survived because of it. And if he protests that he tried structure once and it nearly killed him, look closer at what he tried. It was a cage built around something he never chose. A wall is different, because a wall is chosen, and it faces outward. A dream without walls is not free. It is homeless, and weather gets homeless things, and his oldest dreams have been out in the weather for a decade. Responsibility, reframed, is the wall you build around the thing you love, so the wind cannot take it. The deadline is load-bearing, the routine is a roof. The commitments he keeps dodging are not the cage around the bird, they are the nest, and nothing was ever raised outside one. He thought growing up meant surrendering the dream, it never did. It means finally giving the dream an address. Step 2. The sink. The second step is so small it reads as an insult, and the smallness is the design. Tonight, wash the bowl in the sink. Not the flat, not the backlog, not your life. The one bowl. Wash it, dry it, put it away, and this is the part that matters, tell no one. No photo, no story, no announcement of a new chapter. Silence is the active ingredient, because the fantasy self, the one assembled at that dinner table years ago, feeds on announcement. It adores beginnings, it performs them beautifully, and it starves without an audience. A grand plan hands it a stage. A quietly washed bowl hands it nothing at all, and in that nothing, something older gets fed instead. You said a thing, and your hands did the thing. The loop closed. Some ledger inside registers one honest entry, and entries like that compound in a way announcements never have. This is how a man comes down from altitude without crashing, not with a leap but with stairs. Tomorrow, the bed made on waking. The message answered the same day it arrives. One real meal cooked slowly and eaten off the good plate, the one he was saving. And notice how strange the good plate feels in use, almost wasteful. That strangeness tells you how long later has been running the house. Each ordinary act is ground contact, proof that the ground holds. None of it will impress a single person, which is precisely the point. He has been trying to be impressive for 20 years, and trying to be impressive is what kept him in bed. Now a warning, because the fantasy will try to eat this step too. By Thursday, it will want to turn the bowl into a system, an app, a morning routine with a name. It will want a spreadsheet of streaks it can perform for somebody. Refuse it. The power of the bowl is that it sits beneath performance, too small to brag about, too plain to abandon. And if a day comes when even the bowl feels like too much, that is not failure. That is a day, and days pass. The boy demanded to be extraordinary before breakfast. The man starts with the washing up. Step 3. Practicing failure. Hold that ground a moment, because now it has to take weight. The third step is deliberate, dosed contact with the exact thing his whole architecture exists to avoid, the verdict. Therapists shrink phobias this way, by degrees, the photograph of the spider long before the spider across the room. The fear of failure obeys the same arithmetic. It shrinks on contact and it grows in the dark. Understand what failure is inside his head, because it is never partial. One rejection and the bright child dies in public. That is the imagined size of it, total, final, witnessed. Do not argue with a fantasy that size, dose it. Send one real application on Tuesday to a real company aimed slightly above your reach, and then let the silence come back. Study the silence. It is one email that never arrives. The sun rises anyway, the kettle still works, nobody on your street has heard, and a small data point lands quietly where a dread used to live. Send another on Thursday, aimed level this time, and let one of them answer. Next, the apology you have owed for 2 years, the one that keeps you out of a certain room. Say it in person, say it badly, survive the 10 seconds after. Then show the unfinished work to one person whose face you can watch while they read. That is a braver dose than posting it to 1,000 strangers. Each of these is a controlled burn, and look carefully at what actually burns, because it is not you. What burns is the old sentence, imagine what I could do. It dies in small, affordable pieces on a schedule you chose, instead of all at once at 50, and collect what every burn leaves behind. Not triumph information. This part works, that part does not, adjust, resend, go again. The fantasy has never once produced a sentence like that. It deals only in verdicts, and information is the antidote to verdicts. Failure taken in doses stops being fatal. Step 4. Borrowed discipline. The last step is the one his pride likes least, and it decides whether the other 3 survive the month. He has been trying to fix himself alone, in secret, with midnight plans and private resolutions. And there is a reason 10 years of it have led here, to another video at 1 in the morning. The eternal boy governs a country with no police, and every law he passes at midnight gets repealed by 9. So understand what willpower actually is. A harvest, not a seed. It arrives late in the process, grown from months of kept promises. He keeps trying to spend it at the start, like interest on a deposit never made. The answer is to borrow. Structure can be borrowed long before it is owned. Choose the strict boss over the comfortable one. Choose the kind who writes things down and asks on Thursday about what was promised on Monday. Let being watched do what being inspired never did. Join the training group that runs at 7 on Sunday whether it rains or not. Join the class with a register, the small circle of men who ask how it went, because you told them it was happening. Give money to a deadline. Find the older man who already built the thing you keep sketching. Ask whether he will look at your work twice a month. Then be embarrassed in front of him, mildly, regularly, on schedule. Scheduled embarrassment is the cheapest education there is. None of this is weakness, whatever his pride mutters. A sapling tied to a stake is not failing at being a tree. Outside structure is how an inside spine gets built. Further down this road there is a version of him who keeps promises with nobody watching. That man is real, and he is reachable. He is simply not available at the start, and pretending otherwise has already cost a decade. Borrow the discipline, own what it builds. So go back to the room where this started. 1 in the morning, the ceiling washed that particular blue, the thumb moving on its own. Look at it again with what you now know. Nothing in that scene was laziness. It was a clever child guarding an old promise with everything he had. The circling was guard duty. The provisional life, the glowing anaesthetic, the propped doors, the collection of pirates. All of it was one system with a single job: keep the verdict away from the boy, and now you can also read the bill. It costs the exam never sat and the tune never played for anyone. It costs the girlfriend who stopped asking about next summer. And it does not stop at your own door. Jung, who named the eternal boy, also wrote the sentence that should keep every circling man awake at a better hour than this. The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents. Children do not inherit our advice. They inherit our example, the shape of what we did with what we had. And somewhere ahead there may be a small person learning what a man does with a promise, just by watching yours. That is the stake, and it was never only you. 10 years from tonight there are 2 versions of this room. In one, a man is still scrolling under the same ceiling, guarding a smaller and smaller promise. In the other, the room is dark because somebody is asleep early, tired from a real day, building something slow. So mark the real difference while there is time. The difference between the man who builds a life and the man who stays promising was never talent. Talent stands on both sides of that line, and it often shines brighter on the losing side. The difference is the landing. The willingness to hold the middle air, to be ordinary in public. The willingness to be measured, found wanting, and to go again the following Monday. In the storybook, staying a boy forever is called magic. Out here at this hour in this room, it has other names and you have been paying them for years. So close the feed an hour early tonight. Wash the one bowl. Let the plane come down while there is still somewhere good to land it. The sky was never yours. The ground is. Tell me in the comments, what is the one small thing you will finish before you sleep tonight?